Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and this is the Gaming Decathlon's weekly review special for week 46 of the Gaming Decathlon competition. This week I brought in 3,010 points, topping 3,000 for the very first time, which also makes this the best round in nearly 2 years of the Gaming Decathlon. Current virtual best, small increase this week to 4,142 points. All-time virtual best was unchanged. There's only 2 games inside, so it's not going to change terribly often. But with a whole list of games just outside the top 10, that score should start seeing a regular increase relatively soon. Looking at the 10 games individually, Pro Cycling Manager 2019 in the Career Mode series, over 200 points now, well over halfway to where we were a season ago, and I think we're roughly halfway through the season. So I may or may not surpass that total. Last season we were Continental, this season we're Continental Pro. We are more dominant than we were last season, but the big difference in why the score is not necessarily higher is where I took way too long going through Season 1, did every race. Here, I'm quick-sitting a lot of the races that just don't matter. And those results aren't turning out as good as what I'm able to do firsthand. And that's kind of knocking the score down a little bit. Otherwise, I would think we would hit close to 500 this season. In the Stage Racer, level at 200 points. Also about halfway through the season, so I might surpass last season's total. It's my first season at the World Tour level. I'm doing some really good things, but I'm still not quite there, and others and my team not the greatest in the sport they're able to provide. So it's going to probably come down to next season before I can really see a jump in the score and get competitive and get 600, 700 points. The Classics Rider, same scenario, really. We're not quite as good. We're not pulling in the massive hauls because we're not able to get top results through stage races, but we are pulling victories from time to time, and the classics are where it's at. We've taken one classic now of the official ones, the top ones, so we're getting closer and closer. I had Paris-Roubaix this week, and that was one opportunity where I could have had not necessarily a win, but definitely like a podium. And we ended up with a puncture 30K from the finish where we were already down to the small elite group. And by time we came out of that puncture, the group was long gone, so there was no regaining contact with them. We fought our way back through the field from about 30th to take 11th, but I easily would have been contesting at least a top 5 if I was in that group. So, very unlucky on that one. There would have been a lot more points had we been that bit higher. Even if it was only 5th, we would have come out with quite a few more points and at least been up around 200 by this point. With a record mark of 311 from last season, that's actually still within reach just because it's a smaller total compared to the other 2 series. Motorsport Manager, new season, just getting started, and we're already looking better. For one thing, points were stretched from the top 10 to the top 15 with a new rule change. There's 24 drivers in the field, so only 9 are not getting points, and we're regularly competing in that midfield. We're not at the back, off the pace compared to everybody else, and then just occasionally getting it right. The car's still slower, but the drivers are really good, and we get the right bonuses and the right setup. And when you throw those in there, we're consistently in the top 20. But we're not yet consistently top 15. So still got some work to do on the car to get there. But it's coming. It's coming. Rebel Inc. A little bit down from where we were last week's record-setting total, 590, which jumped into the top 10. And that's because we've now moved on to Brutal. And well, brutal is, brutal. It's a lot tougher. So we're seeing a minor dip in score, mainly because there's a boost in score because of the difficulty, but then the dip in score is because, well, we failed. So the moment we can pass a level on brutal, even if it's not rated terribly high star-wise, it actually should boost our score a bit and exceed that record. It won't be exceeded by much unless we get a lot of stars, but it's going to take a little time to get used to brutal. Rebel Cops still sitting on 300 points, new mission ongoing, and it's a massive shootout. Not my cup of tea. Some struggles early in this one, but I think by the end of the episode, it's settled down, and I think we're going to move forward. Drafty Sports College Basketball. Still at the end of the season, we had the off-season special, so we'll get into the new season next week. PCM 18, Career Mode. Another one of those cases of a few too many quick sims, otherwise we would definitely be on pace to outscore last season. At this point, we're on pace to just about match last season. F1 2019, last question mark career, coming just about to the end of that series. Next week will be the final episode. And we've claimed a podium, and we're consistently getting really good results now. And seeing quite a few upgrades to the car while we're at it. So that series is going really well. I would really have liked to have gotten at least a third season out of that one, as this is one episode away from ending season 2. But the viewers are down, so it is what it is. We move on. Football Manager 2020 still in beta, season underway, and after an 0-2 start, we're settling down now. We now have 11 points through 7 games. We're playing much better. Those first 2 games, we didn't play poorly. We just a little unlucky, a little unfortunate. Other teams took advantage of their opportunities, and we couldn't maximize our opportunities, so came out on the short end of the stick. But the team is starting to come along. We're mid-table, but that's where we're supposed to be anyway. I have a history of taking mid-table teams and moving them up the order and competing. Doesn't always happen right away. Usually, once we get rolling, though, we move right up to the top. It's taking a little longer this time. Usually it's only a game or 2 or 3 before we really kind of kick off and see that progress. Maybe because it's championship, it's a lot more competitive, it's a lot tougher, and quality of players, there's a bigger gulf in championship than there are in other divisions. So I think that's probably one of the factors, and it might not be a one and done season in the championship and then we see Premier League. It might take a couple of years to get the right personnel and get it locked down and see that team into the Premier League. But once again, new record score for the week with 3,010 points from this week alone. Just the one game, Motorsport Manager, under 100, and just one game under 200 now. So everybody else is 200 plus. Throw that all together, and we've managed to top 3,000 for that first time. The virtual best, when you put them all together, their record score, it's only 1,000 above where our score was for the week. So a lot of the games are close to their records, and yet somehow only 2 of them increased their record score this week. So a little strange that the gap is so small, and yet 8 out of 10 games are below their record score. But a lot of them are hovering fairly close to where they're at. One game going to reset this week, but Draft Day Sports College Basketball never sees a massive drop in points, but it is a couple hundred points, so it's definitely going to bring us down a bit. It'll be hard to cover off a couple hundred points as we start the new season through the other games. So might not increase that score next week, but I would think maybe the week after we could continue rising, because nobody else is just about done Though, of course, F1, see, there you go, F1 is about to retire. So, with that game ending next week, if I don't increase that score next week, that actually could be it for a little while, because we're going to lose nearly 400 points off the table, and the game replacing it, Japanese Sports Pro Basketball, is going to start at 0. So, we wipe 400 points away just like that, a week after wiping about 200 points out for the college basketball game. So subtract 600 from that total, and that's a lot of points from the other 8 games and college basketball to cover in the next couple of weeks. So we might sit at 3010 as the new best round for a little while. On the all-time virtual best side, no change in the score, no change in the placings. The only movement in points whatsoever was FM20 there in 12th place with 7 points more than it had a week ago, so it still stays in that position. But that's going to do it for this review special. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Decathlon Gamer, and I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye for now.